Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here. Welcome back to another one of these unscripted discussion videos, and today I wanted to chat about something that popped up in the news recently that I found very interesting indeed, and it's to do with good old BBC News. We have the article from the BBC themselves that says BBC sets out plans for TV news channel merger in 2023. And can I just say, I love it when the BBC reports on itself. It has to refer to itself as just the BBC. You know, instead of saying we're doing this, it's like, no, the BBC is doing this. I find it really funny. But as we know, the BBC is going under a lot of change at the minute. We did a previous video covering how in a few years' time, channels like CBBC and BBC4 are going to be digital-led channels. They're not going to have their own traditional TV channels anymore, and what that meant for them. So there's a lot going on at the BBC, and this is sort of adhering to that as well. So the article says, the BBC has said it's investing in new capability to cover breaking news stories for a TV news channel which is expected to launch in April 2023. The channel, which will be called BBC News, is replacing the corporation's two existing separate UK and global news channels. So obviously now here in the UK we just have, I think it's called the BBC News Channel, and we have the BBC World News. So for anyone who might not be aware, any of the younger viewers, if you're abroad, in a lot of countries, not all of them, but in a lot of territories, you can access BBC World News so you can keep up with what's going on here at home and also learn about the international stories as well. It says it's part of plans for a digital-led, streamlined organisation. About 70 UK-based BBC staff will lose their jobs as a result of the merger, it's understood, but in Washington DC, about 20 jobs will be created. Obviously, in anything to do with any business, losing jobs is never a good thing, and for those 70 people, they're probably going to be scrambling thinking what they're going to do next. Some of them might go over to Washington, who knows? BBC News digital director, Nadja Nielsen, said the way people consume current affairs is changing. In recent years, we've seen a huge surge in audiences coming to our live coverage, with tens of millions following live pages when big stories and events unfold. And I've got to say, I do agree with her on that. I mean, recently I found myself doing that. I think earlier this year, when the war in Ukraine started, I followed that live page like a hawk. I wanted to know what the updates were, because, it's still horrific. It's going on now, months later. But I think when it kicked off, there was a lot of uncertainty and fear. We haven't had war in Europe, like, on this scale for 80 years, or nearly that time. So I followed that page. Recently been doing it with the stuff going on in politics. I won't dive too much into that. But yeah, there's a few instances where I've been following those live pages, and I think they're actually quite good. They're fairly streamlined. It's easier to read and stuff like that. So I'm all for expanding those. As the world's most trusted source of news with a huge depth and breadth of expertise, the BBC is uniquely placed to offer audiences the best analysis and explanation as these stories are unfolding. See, what I love about that quote is there are going to be some people on both sides of the political spectrum who are like, most trusted source of news, absolute rubbish. And I mean, you can make arguments that, is any source of news trustworthy these days anymore? But I mean, for the bang for my buck, just my personal opinion, if you said to me, right, you've got to trust one news source, whether it's TV, whether it's in print or whatever, I'd probably go with the BBC. She said investing in this would mean our news channel and digital teams will work hand in hand to bring the best journalism to audiences both at home and abroad. A new feature will be the BBC investing in visualising programmes based on popular radio shows, starting with the BBC Radio 5 Live Nicky Campbell programme, which will be broadcast on BBC Two on weekday mornings, as well as on the UK stream of the new channel. This is a very interesting decision to me. Like, I know visualising radio it's not been done before. It has been done before, it's not a new concept, but I don't know if this is the right way to introduce your new news channel by just simply converting radio programs to it, or visualizing them as they keep calling it. Yes, it does, it probably saves money, but it was a bit left field for me. I want to keep radio if we can. The move is part of cost-saving measures. Well, there you go. In January, Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries confirmed the BBC licence fee is to be frozen at £159 for 2 years, and in May the corporation announced that as well as merging its two news channels, it would stop airing CBBC and BBC4 as traditional broadcast channels. It also said it would axe its regional TV news programmes in Oxford and Cambridge, which, by the way, I had no idea that was even still happening. I think, it's time for those to go, really. But I haven't really spoken in depth, I guess, about the license fee freeze and all that stuff. Nadine Dorries, again, I won't get too into politics, but what can you say about Nadine Dorries? She's just, completely, delusional.
Particularly when it's a receipt of taxpayers' money.
It's not in receipt of license fee money. It makes its money from commercial operations.
Yeah,
But I won't delve too much into it further than that. But yeah, this is all part of the cost-saving measures, I suppose. So here we have the analysis by Katie Razzle, who's the culture editor, and this is what she says. You don't close 70 roles, including the posts of 14 chief presenters, and ask an entire workforce to apply for a smaller number of new jobs, as BBC sources have confirmed to me, and this is the situation, if you don't believe that radical change is needed. With linear TV audiences falling, the BBC is signalling it must take its programming to where those news consumers are now heading. And again, I agree with the sense that if the live pages, for example, are more successful, I get moving to those and trying to streamline everything. Interesting that it says 14 chief presenters are going to be among the 70 who are losing their jobs. They don't name them, but I wonder who those might be. You know, it calls into question a presenter such as, just to pull a few names that I know, you know, Hugh Edwards, George Alagaya, people like that. Are they safe from it necessarily? We don't know. So it'll be interesting to see who, I hate saying it, but you know, who makes the cut, so to speak. Digital first has been a buzz phrase for some time. In a sense, this announcement is a reaction to the big surges seen on live pages offered online by BBC News. Most recently, audiences flocked to the website's live page for stories as wide-ranging as Boris Johnson's departure and the glorious weather over the Glastonbury long weekend. Today's plans drive greater crossover between digital and TV, which, you know, we've known this is happening for a while. The whole digital-led future has been marketed to us for a while. Katie reports that she's been told that $4 million will be reinvested in new future-facing plans, financed from the $12.5 million being saved by merging the channels. It's mad to think it saves that much money by merging the channels. I guess you really, unless you're inside all this, you have no idea. You know, I'd had no idea how much this actually saves. So for a good third of that is in the future-facing plans from the money they're saving. It includes a live and breaking news team. It's believed will significantly increase the BBC's capacity to offer breaking news stories across all its platforms, including, crucially, BBC iPlayer. I guess, though, with live and breaking news teams, breaking news just happens, man. Like, you know, you can preempt some of it to a certain degree. I guess investing in those teams, if they're UK-based, that makes it easier, you know, especially if they're based in London. But for worldwide stuff, I don't know how they're going to manage that. But, you know, it's interesting. That's what we're investing some of the money into. There'll be more roles for journalists who will also do presenting. There'll be programs based around particular chief presenters, and there will be a beefed up presence in Washington. So the programs based around chief presenters doesn't surprise me again. The ones that spring to mind, like, you know, I said Hugh Edwards, George Alagaya, maybe Ros Atkins as well. I quite like his stuff. I'd love for him to get a sort of program on the news channel, but we'll have to wait and see. Again, none of these are named. But the news of the changes come at a huge cost, not least to nearly 200 BBC colleagues who now face very unsettling times. Sources I've spoken to say that by creating one channel broadcast globally, the BBC is in fact giving up on UK rolling news at quality and depth, with plans for opt-out coverage when big UK stories break. That's disputed, though, by the BBC. Again, I love this. The BBC reporting on themselves. I'm reading this from the BBC News webpage. It's so funny. We're reporting on ourselves, man, but that's what they got to do. So nearly 200 now. Why has that jumped? Why have we jumped from 70? Is that, like, involving backstage crew as well? I assume that was included in the 70, but now we've nearly jumped to 200, so that's funny. So the criticism is, so one channel broadcasts globally. That's right, so you're scrapping world news, so this channel will be seen everywhere. It's giving up on UK rolling news at quality and depth. Right, so is that implying that we're still going to get UK-based stories on this new channel, but maybe not in the same depth that we have had for the past however many decades? You know, it's going to be focused more on, like, international news, stuff in the UK, but also abroad, which I don't think is a bad thing. You like to know what's going on in the world, but so the criticism's implying that this new TV channel that's going to launch in 2023 is going to have more of a focus on, like, global news as, like, the dominant factor as opposed to UK-centric news. That's the rough thing I'm getting here. The plans are an answer to forecasts about dwindling TV audiences, as with everything in the competitive media environment, there is no guarantee of success. Well, isn't that the truth? The new news channel will be broadcast globally with advert-free access for licence fee payers in the UK, who will also be shown more international coverage. The corporation said it will also feature new flagship programmes built around high-profile journalists, and UK viewers will receive specific content at certain times of the day. So, okay, that confirms what I said then. You know, the new channel will have more international coverage, which, you know, you could argue, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't think it's a massive detriment, but I guess if you like watching UK-based news on the telly, then it's a bit of a downside, but I guess that's why they're focusing on the live pages and stuff like that. Specific content at certain times of the day, I wonder what that means. If it means, like, specific programs, or, like, you get your UK run of the news at a certain time. Again, we're keeping it a bit vague. So the last heading says visualizing radio shows, which I guess we'll talk a bit about that, but this is the last part of the article. A live and breaking news team will offer global coverage of global breaking news stories, plus a domestic-only stream for UK-specific news events. Other plans announced include the channel broadcasting from London during UK daytime hours, and then Singapore and Washington DC, and sports programming will be a mixture of the UK-facing Sports Day and new global-facing sports programs. So again, we're moving more towards that international, global standard of news. I mean, that first part. So we're getting global breaking news stories and a domestic-only stream for UK-specific news events. So domestic-only stream, so that implies only in the UK. But again, is that going on this new channel? So are we only going to see that? Or is this going on the iPlayer? Again, we're keeping it very vague. And some of the other plans, so during the UK daytime hours, the broadcast will be from London. But then, I guess when it's not UK daytime, we're going to Singapore and Washington, DC. Interesting choices. They did say an increased presence in Washington. I mean, there is a lot going on in America, and they are partners with channels like CNN. Singapore's an interesting one. Sports programming. I guess some sports fans will be a bit gutted that maybe there'll be less UK focus on the sports, but, I think a lot of sports fans also like the international scene as well, so I don't think that'll be too much of a problem. BBC Studios will carry on securing commercial revenues from the channel outside the UK, primarily through advertising, returning funding to the BBC that can be reinvested in public service journalism. The BBC said its plans are now subject to consultation with staff and trade unions. Oh, okay. So they're announcing this channel, but the plans are now subject to consultation, so I guess they have to chat with staff. I guess that won't be an easy conversation for the between 70 and 200 that are going to potentially use their jobs. The trade unions will be keeping a close eye as well. Of course, we've had a lot of strike action recently across several industries, in rail, and there's talks some going to go on in the airline industry. So the BBC are going to have to tread carefully, I think, if they really want this to go ahead. They can't take anyone for fools. They can't try and sweep anyone under the rug here. So we'll have to see how that goes. BBC Studios gets a mention as well because that's its commercial arm, if you like, and they recently reported they had a great year. They made a lot of profit with shows like Doctor Who and Top Gear really contributing to that. So in an era where the BBC's facing, a lot of lack of funding due to the license fee freeze, it's nice to see that they are earning some money from their commercial output. So that's the main article, but I mean, so is this a good idea? I mean, I guess if any of us ran a business, and you're told, right, you actually can't make... You can't raise your cost of, the license fee. You can't raise that. It's got to stay the same. It's going to be a challenge for anyone, because you're trying to deliver the same services with less amount of money, or the same amount of money, should I say. So moving channels like CBBC, BBC4, and cutting two news channels into one, these are all cost-saving measures that we might not like or we might not prefer, but, in the BBC's case, do they really have a choice? Because if they operate at a loss, then further down the line, that could just lead to, even worse things or abrupt ending of channels and stuff like that. It's just, I think, it's the best of a bad situation. Again, Nadine Dorries, I could make a whole series rambling about her stance as a politician and how she's doesn't seem to know anything about the culture she's presumably the secretary of, but I won't dive into it here. But I'm interested to see this news channel that will launch supposedly in the spring of next year. I'd like to see the balance of UK coverage and international coverage. And again, I'll just say I've got no problem with international coverage. I find that really interesting, learning what's going on around the world. But in traditional TV, I don't watch much traditional TV these days, but if I do, a lot of the time it is on the news channel because I like to know what's going on, follow breaking news stories, etc. So I'd check this out when it launches. Glad the live pages are going to get some more focus as well. Again, if you haven't used those or seen those, you can look on the BBC News website or the BBC News app. Really streamlined, great ways to follow the news. So yeah, maybe not ideal for those who wanted a separate channel for the UK and a separate channel for international news, but again, this is what they got to do. But I'd be really interested to know your thoughts. Please let me know in the comments what you think of this news. Do you think this is a good solution, a good money-saving measure? Are you gutted that the two channels are becoming one? Are you annoyed that it's going more digital-led? Do you think there's a better alternative? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it as well. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. I've been Adam Martyn from AMTV. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show. And a special thank you to Macra, Jen Samantha Pringle, JPK Live, Anna Art, Adam Martin's biggest fan, Max Jackson, Kelly is Live, Tracy Smith, Brittany Fan 1999, Hooks Media, Ben Freeman, Ethan Carberry Holt, Tajin the Video Editor 820, Bruce Danton, and the Broken Kitsumanoid, our AMTV staff members.